Hey guys, it's your bro, Richie here again. So hey guys, it's your bro, Richie here again. Today's video is an extended video of the previous Eagle Talon video, so without any further ado, let's just continue on from where I left off. So, ESI models, which are naturally aspirated, so the non-turbo ones, didn't receive side skirts, while both the TSI and TSI all-wheel drive models received side skirts that had the words 16 valve DOHC 16 valve DOHC so 16 valve DOHC turbo embossed on the sections behind the doors and ahead of the rear wheels. Minor differences in the front bumper included the lack of a body colored splitter in the central air intake compared to the Eclipse. Slightly differently shaped fog lights, and the entire air intake section was recessed into the bumper cover compared to the flush intakes of the Eclipse. The Talon featured a black roof, while the Eclipse had a body-colored top. Lastly, the Eagle and either ESI, TSI, or TSI all-wheel drive badges were embossed body-colored plastic. So body-colored plastic that was glued to the rear bumper, so that was glued to the rear bumper below the taillights. So the badges were embossed body-colored plastic that was glued to the rear bumper below the taillights on the Talon, while the Eclipse used simple stickers placed on the hatch to denote both make and trim level. 4097 model year, a design 4097 model year, a design of 4097 model year, a design 97 model year, a design so money sorry 4097 model year, a design update occurred for both the Talon and Eclipse. That's sometimes referred to as 2GB. Both front and rear fascias were heavily revised to incorporate more aggressive looking features. At the front, a larger air intake was created, and the eagle emblems both enlarged and embossed into the center of the bumper cap, as opposed to a badge that inset into a similarly shaped hole. A new high mount spoiler replacing the previous flush mounted sickle spoiler. Side skirts were dropped from both TSI and TSI all-wheel drive models. Embossed lettering 16V DOHC turbo, 16V, which is 16 valve DOHC turbo was added between both the doors and the rear wheels. All badging on the sides and rear of the cars now changed to contrasting colors instead of body colored. Plastic moldings in the bumper. So plastic moldings on the bumper. Plastic moldings on both the bumper caps and doors were added. Both the TSI and TSI all-wheel drive models, so all-wheel drive models, their aluminum wheels were increased to 17 inches. Pretty good. And the styling and the styling and the styling was angular, replacing the 16 inch um curved curved design of the wheels is of the 5-spoke wheels. Both TSI and TSI all-wheel drive models again featured an intercooled turbo inline 4, now replacing the standard Mitsubishi's 14B turbo with a Garrett T25 turbo. Although the T25 was a smaller turbo, it spooled much faster. So it spooled faster at a lower RPM, resulting in increased low end increased low end acceleration performance. The TSI all-wheel drive model retained obviously the all-wheel drive system. Now we got the motors. So there's 3 different versions. So we got the ESI, that's the first one. Then we got the TSI. Then we got 2 versions of the TSI all-wheel drive and the standard TSI. One's automatic and one's manual. So for the ESI version, it's got a naturally aspirated 2 liter DOHC. So it's got a naturally aspirated 2 liter DOHC Chrysler so it's got a naturally aspirated 2 liter DOHC, so dual overhead camshaft or double overhead camshaft. So 2 liter naturally aspirated DOHC Chrysler 420A inline 4 motor, naturally aspirated, 6,000 RPM for power, 4,800 for torque. And it made 140 horsepower and 130 pound-feet, 180 newton meters of torque. So 6,000 RPM for power and 4,800 for torque. A little bit of an Easter egg about that motor. This was the same motor that was used in Brian O'Connor's 1995 Eclipse RS from the first Fast and Furious movie. It's true fact, this. And in the movie, it was mentioned that it was turbocharged, but in reality, it was just naturally aspirated. It did not really have a turbo at all. So I'll just let you guys know. That was a little Easter egg, by the way. Now, we got 2 different versions of the TSI and TSI all-wheel drive. The difference being is one is a manual and one is an automatic. So one's a manual and one's an automatic. So they both share the same exact motor, a 2 liter turbocharged DOHC Mitsubishi 4G63 inline 4 motor. So both 6,000 RPM for power and 3,000 for torque. Difference being is the manual has a little bit more power, but the automatic has a little bit more torque. So for the manual, it makes 210 horsepower, 210 horsepower, and 210 horsepower, and 210 horsepower, and 210 horsepower, and 205 pound-feet, 278 newton meters of torque. Well, 280 if you round up. So both 6,000 RPM for power and 3,000 for torque. Now the automatic, however, just a little bit less power, 205 horsepower. Still not bad. 205 horsepower is pretty good. But it makes 220 pound-feet, 298, almost 300 newton meters of torque. Okay, so the manual might have an extra 5 horsepower. but the automatic has an extra 15 pound-feet, 20 newton meters of torque more. Alright, now we got the standard equipment. So, for the ESI, it's got a 2-liter DOHC inline 4, 5-speed manual, 4-wheel brake rotors, driver and passenger airbags, variable assisted power steering, cloth reclining front bucket seats, folding rear seat, front center console with storage and armrests, tinted glass, tachometer, coolant temperature gauge, trip odometer, map lights, dual remote mirrors, visor mirrors, AM/FM radio, digital clock, remote fuel door, and hatch releases, tilt steering column, intermittent wipers, rear wiper with washer, rear spoiler, color keyed body size, moldings, 195/70 R14 tires and wheel covers. Now for the TSI, was added turbocharged motor, sport tuned exhaust system, upgraded suspension, driver seats, lumbar support adjust, split folding rear seats, leather wrapped steering wheel and manual gear shift handle, power windows, turbo boost, manual gear shift handle, power mirrors, turbo boost and oil pressure gauges, cassette player, lighted visor mirrors, rear defogger, cargo area cover, cargo net, lower body side cladding, fog lights, 205/55 R16 tires, and alloy wheels. Now I got the all-wheel drive version, so it had not much on it, just permanent all-wheel drive, cruise control. So permanent all-wheel drive, cruise control, power door locks and windows, and with 215/55 VR16 tires. Now we got the optional equipment. God dang, it's a lot. I'll be back in a bit, don't worry. Alright guys, I'm gonna take a little bit of a break. I'll be back in a bit. Peace.